In short, I am of the mind that we just need to revamp the curriculum and address curricular offerings for majors and non-majors. This, in my view, is vital. And the unit is seeking to address these matters in relation to broader curricular initiatives, including pathways. But while participation in college-level committees is important, I am arguing for more collaboration between departments and programs, that is, between faculty and students. There are possibilities for growth and change, and I'm the kind of person where the glass is half full, not half empty. We need to seize the moment and the interest on the parts of students to avail themselves of curricular opportunities in Puerto Rican and Latino studies. It behooves those in the humanities, social sciences, nursing and social work, and the health sciences in particular, to partner with the unit to revise syllabi, revamp or develop courses, and cross-list courses in the Puerto Rican and Latino sequence. There is not enough of that. And to work together to ensure that there's intellectual growth and continuity as students pursue additional coursework. So for example, it's not enough to take an introduction to Puerto Rican studies and then go back to the nursing department and never deal with that subject matter ever again. So there has to be something in the nursing program that allows students to build upon what they learned in the department. Again, in my view, this requires us to resuscitate or revamp what I call transdisciplinary courses in the unit and disciplinary specific courses as well that focus on the Puerto Rican and the broader Latino experience. The mutual exchange, and I want to underscore this, of theoretical and methodological areas of expertise, as well as the inclusion of culturally specific materials, is vital to the well-being of the unit and of units truly committed to creating an inclusive intellectual environment where ideas are worked within and through disciplinary constructs. Now, I want to emphasize the notion of transdisciplinary because often what I see is that you offer a course that's in political science or in sociology or in anthropology and in history, and there is seldom discussion about how these disciplines overlap and how also Latino studies and Puerto Rican studies is developing theoretical and methodological approaches that move beyond those disciplinary constructs. And that kind of conversation, it seems to me, needs to take place. Okay, so I'm going to jump here. Let me turn briefly to pathways. I recognize, and so does everybody else across the campuses, that it's not ideal. Nothing ever is. But this is what we've got. And we've got to figure out how to partner to make sure to make this work. And so I've asked myself, how can we creatively partner to ensure that our intellectual mission in our respective departments and at Hunter College is achieved? How do we navigate these new requirements and the cultural terrain if we hold steadfast to what defines us disciplinarily, dabble with interdisciplinarity, or simply leave it up to some other unit to tackle? We really do have to have an honest dialogue about transdisciplinary work. True engagement requires dialogue, experimenting with new ideas and new modes of teaching and of structural change. So for example, what can a Puerto Rican Latino sequence offer the history or the anthropology department? Not simply on an ad hoc basis, but in truly engaged manner. What can and does the unit offer the Department of Education or the program in nursing? Students, interestingly enough, seem to have a handle on this because they're taking the courses to fulfill the requirements, the GER requirements and the writing requirements, but they also know that there's more to it. And by the end of the term, when I teach these students, I often find that they're able to articulate why a particular course was of interest and worthwhile beyond a mere requirement or beyond their disciplinary training. So how can Puerto Rican Latino offerings enhance, for example, course offerings in Latin American and Caribbean literatures, in the Romance languages, and in the English department? We might want to consider developing a plan of action, one that promotes dialogue in the immediate over the course of several semesters to really define what the syllabi are going to look like, what the new courses or the revamping of courses are going to look like, and what kinds of dialogue faculty and groups of 2s and 3s who are thinking about syllabi or who are thinking about courses need to do to teach themselves so that they have the intellectual tools to teach students about this transdisciplinary project. That means that faculty have to be willing to become re-educated so that they can properly educate our students. So I'm going to leave it at that and then let you expand on some of these issues in the question and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Torres. And there's some important threads I think that we can pick up on, and I imagine that there will be some dialogue also among our panelists. I'd like to turn now to President Melendez.
Okay. Before going into the areas that Arlene just mentioned, I want to spend a few minutes talking about what's the relevance of Latino studies for students at Hunter. Excuse me if I bore you with these statistics. Most of you, I guess, are aware of them. Of course, according to the 2010 census, Latinos are the largest minority population. They represent 16% of the population. At that time, more than 50 million Hispanics live in the US. They were by far the largest group in terms of increase, over 43% from 2000. There are over 21 Hispanic groups into that category. That alone will take us a while to discuss, so I'm skipping that. Latinos, the Latino population grew all over the US. In fact, although Hispanics represent 12.6% of the population in the Northeast, Latinos in the Northeast grew 33% from 2000, while the population growth in this area was a mere 3%. That is, what we see in the Northeast is the same thing that we are seeing throughout the US, and a huge increase in the Latino population. Latinos represent 17.6% of the New York State population, okay? Now, 68% of all New York State Latinos live in New York City. So when we talk about Latinos in New York State, we're basically talking about Latinos in New York City. Now, let me just say a few things about the population group that is most important to us, Latino youth. Now, well, before that, in 2010, 29% of the city's population was Latino, almost 1/3 of the population. And of course, again, this is the group that is increasing faster in New York City. Again, most of the Latino groups are represented in New York City, with the predominant groups being Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Mexicans, Ecuadorians, Colombians, and others. Although 52% of all Latinos in New York City are foreign-born, the rate for the youth, for people below 24 years old, is over 67%. Okay, so most of the Latino youth is native-born, and most of them, 85%, have a high proficiency in English. Okay, so that's not a major problem for this group. Latinos also are the youngest in New York City. The median age for Latinos is 31 years old, while for whites it's 43, blacks 38, and Asians 37. Latinos also have the highest rate in poverty, over 29%. Now, almost 1/3 of all the population up to age 24 in New York City belongs to the Latino group. Okay, so basically, New York City's youth is Latino, and it'll be increasing in the years to come. As a matter of fact, a report, 2010 report on the city's youth is called New York City's Future Looks Latino. Okay? This is what we expect in the near future. As of today, almost 40% of all students in New York City's public schools are Latino. Okay? So what we are projecting in the future is not only an increase in the Latino population, but an increase in the in students at the public school sector, and also more Latinos coming to CUNY. As of now, 31% of all CUNY students are Latinos. That goes down to, where is it? 16% at Hunter College. That's another issue we might discuss later on. Now, let me talk about Latino studies at Hunter. In the past 2 years, there were 24 courses related to Latin America and the Caribbean, basically throughout the social sciences: anthropology, political science, Spanish, geography, history, and LACS. There were 10 other courses related to race and ethnicity in the US, which you might argue, well, they might have, or might not, they might have a Latino component. 6 courses on multiculturalism, diversity, and bilingual education in the School of Education. And there were several courses on migration and immigration in departments like political science, sociology, anthropology, urban affairs and planning, and the School of Social Work. Now, when we talk about Latino studies at Hunter, we are basically talking about the Puerto Rican Latino sequence of the African and Puerto Rican Latino Studies Department. That's Latino studies. Outside of that sequence, I could find only 2 courses in the English department. One of those courses, Latino literature in the US, is also taught by a sequence faculty. And there were 2 other courses dealing with Latinos in the Department of Political Science. Again, one of those courses, Latino politics in the US, is also taught at the Puerto Rican Latino sequence. Okay? So basically, Latino studies is centered on the sequence. There were no courses related to Latinos in departments like music, nursing, psychology, education, the School of Social Work, urban affairs and planning, sociology, urban public health, special education, or economics. Okay? So that's something we should talk regarding what Arlene mentioned earlier. Now, let's talk about the sequence. In the past 2 years, the sequence offered between 11 and 14 courses dealing with Puerto Ricans and Latinos in general. Okay? Most of these courses were what we call rice and beans. That is, courses that are offered to fulfill the pluralism and diversity requirements. More specialized courses are fewer, are more limited. Of the nearly 32 courses offered in the sequence, in the 32 courses in the catalog, okay, those courses that are officially acknowledged by Hunter, 17 had not been taught in the last 3 years. 13 of those deal with Puerto Rico or Puerto Rican issues. Okay? The Puerto Rican Latino sequence has taught 18 different courses in the last 2 years. 3 deal with Puerto Rico or Puerto Ricans related to Puerto Rico. 3 others deal with Puerto Rican Latinos in the US. 5 with Latinos in the US in general. And 3 deal with the Dominican Republic or Dominicans in the US. As of now, in terms of courses that have been taught in the past 2 or 3 years, there are no courses in the sequence dealing with music, art, education, psychology, sociology, cultural studies, Latino communities in New York City, Mexicans and other Latinos in New York, economics and economic development, Latino community development, or religion. Okay? What's the meaning of all this? For Hunter students, for students in nursing and health, education, music, art, social work, sociology, urban affairs and planning, psychology, economics, for most of our students in these areas, they will probably not have any training or academic background in courses dealing with Latinos. That is, with courses dealing with the largest growing population in New York City, a population that they will probably have to face as clients, patients, students, or subjects of research. Okay? Now, what's the importance of Latino studies? Well, I mentioned quite a few in my introduction. What could Latino studies offer Hunter students? Well, as I mentioned, I think a background in Latino studies can better prepare Hunter students to understand a very important population in New York City, one that they will interact as professionals. Latino studies also, as Arlene mentioned, provides an interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary focus that's not provided by more traditional disciplines. Latino studies also provides a perspective that's basically, I don't want to say unique, but it's basically particular to Latino studies, which is a focus on transnational relations, migration, and community, which is quite important in New York City. Also, another function of Latino studies, one which I think is quite important, is what I call civic ideals. That is, Latino studies will definitely allow students to become better citizens. Whether you say that's important or not, that's another issue. I consider that a very important function. That is, to prepare our students to interact with other citizens they will find in New York City or in the US. What are the challenges? As Arlene mentioned, Pathway will present a very important challenge for us. I don't know specifically what that challenge is. I'm still trying to make some meaning about Pathway. But basically, most of our courses are taken to fulfill the pluralism and diversity requirement. How will Pathway affect that? I think we have to sit down and discuss what the consequences of this will mean. Definitely, I think that we need to increase Latino-related courses throughout Hunter's curriculum. How we do that, again, is a matter for discussion. One thing we can already start, we have been already doing, is to strengthen the major and the minor programs in the Puerto Rican Latino sequence at the department. We have been dealing with a curriculum reform. I think that's very important, and that's something that hopefully we can present in the future. An idea we can discuss is the creation of new majors and minors related to Latino studies. For example, half of the courses provided by LACS, by the Latin American Caribbean Studies, half of those courses in the past 2 years come from our sequence. Okay? So basically what LACS students are doing is, in fact, doing a minor or major in Latin American Caribbean Studies / Latino Studies. Okay? And of course, we need to increase the number of courses offered in other disciplines. How we do that is another issue that might be discussed. But again, I think those are the challenges and the opportunities that Latino studies have to face in the near future.
Why don't we turn finally to Professor Contreras for the
Thank you.
concluding round of opening remarks.
So thank you for the invitation. I should note that I'm relatively new to Hunter, so my comments actually come from the perspective of someone who's recently joined the faculty 2 years ago, and also from someone who is not in AFPRL. I come from history. The way that I've organized my comments, I want to talk about students and courses, and then I want to talk about faculty, and then I want to talk about thinking about greater opportunities, collaboration with other programs on campus. So first of all, in terms of students and courses, Edwin, you forwarded a list of recent courses or what the courses that are on the books, and I was quite impressed. Again, because given that I'm relatively new, I thought, whoa, there appears to be quite a wide array of courses. I did note that some of them are taught regularly, some of them aren't. Or I think some of them said we don't quite know when the last time that they were taught were. So in reading or in going through that list, I wondered, and I hope that there are some students here, because I had the question of, I wonder what, from students' perspectives, what they think is missing or what could be strengthened, and that relates to Edgardo's comments about that it appears that there aren't courses in public health or that some areas have greater coverage than others. So it'd be good to hear, I think, well, definitely from other faculty and staff, but also from students, if any are here, kind of get their perspectives on that. Related to some of the comments that Arlene made at the beginning, I do think that it'd be good for us to consider greater collaboration between those of us who are committed to Latino studies but are not in AFPRL. I mean, it appears that there are faculty members in other disciplines, and I know some of them were not able to be here today, but I think that perhaps as Arlene, you and Edgardo mentioned that AFPRL is in the process of rethinking what the programmatic vision. I wonder whether there might be some kind of faculty affiliate program or something to kind of create greater contact between those of us who are not in your department but are very much committed to making sure that students know that we are interested and want to have greater connection with the department. Related to that, and also Arlene, you brought up transdisciplinary. I wonder, I've heard that the honors colleges have a system of co-teaching. So I thought, well, is that an opportunity for those of us who either are not affiliated with the honors college yet, but are very committed to Latino studies, to bring together someone in English or someone who is in AFPRL and in political science and do some co-teaching. That there's much richness to be gained from that experience. So those are just some thoughts about courses and about teaching. There's one very specific opportunity and challenge related to, and this is I recognize this is slightly selfish of me. One of the wonderful things about Hunter is that we have the archives and the library. So that's an opportunity. And I say that primarily because I'm a historian and I love the archives. But the archives are no longer here, at least not at this campus. And one of the things that I am preparing to do for next fall is figure out how to address the challenge of the fact that my students who take my comparative Latino histories class, they take back-to-back classes, and getting them to the new campus is challenging. And so it's just something that I'm going to have to figure out, and I know that the archivists are extremely committed to working with me, but it's just something that I'm still, it's easy for staff and faculty to go back and forth, but I think for our students, it's hard. And I know that we can think about field trips and getting them to do assignments there, but it's still, it's just a challenge. I don't have a proposal. It's just wanted to put that out there. In terms of faculty, I know I've had informal conversations with Arlene and with Victor about figuring out how to increase opportunities for those of us who are committed to Latino studies to talk with one another and meet each other both formally and informally. And I know that there are wonderful programming events that occur throughout the year. One proposal that I wanted to put forth, and other people can just as a way, I'd like to get people's reactions once we open it up, is either having some kind of yearly symposium where faculty at Hunter actually present their work. And this gives us the opportunity to meet each other. I mean, I was really looking forward to meeting Lena Newton, for example, who's a political science who I've never met. And I mean, again, we're all super busy and we have so many demands. And I thought, Arlene and I have talked about perhaps some kind of ongoing seminar, but I know that can get tricky in terms of people's commitments. So I thought perhaps either a yearly symposium where the key presenters are people who are at Hunter and are working in Latino studies, and we get to meet each other, but we can invite our colleagues, a kind of one-time year shot, our colleagues in other departments, and as well as the dean and the provost. So that's one proposal. So in both, I think the opportunity there are faculty members who are very much interested in building more connections with one another, and we just have to figure out ways to make that happen more concretely. The last thing I wanted to talk about was in terms of connections with other programs or other departments. I know that Women and Gender Studies, I'm just going to talk about two. Women and Gender Studies is very much committed to issues of race and ethnicity. I sit on their policy committee. We're in the process of planning a civil rights conference for next fall. So that's definitely an avenue where perhaps Centro could serve as a co-sponsor, and I will definitely make sure that we talk about having a series of panelists and presenters that present different kinds of perspectives. The other place that I thought in terms of interdisciplinary programs that outside of departments was Roosevelt House. And I think that it's a place where there's a lot of public policy, public history work going on, and I think it'd be very useful for Centro to link up more if it isn't happening already. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
And very rich. Thank you very much, Mr. Contreras. Before we open this up, I thought if you would indulge me, I wanted to make a few comments that I consider to be mostly informational. I was struck that all three of you raised the question in almost every institution about siloing, that faculty are in a department or in a unit and have a hard time reaching out of that to faculty who have related interests and related research and teaching. And I'm pleased to be able to announce unofficially that at the end of March, our office, the Office of the Dean in the School of Arts and Sciences, is going to launch an initiative that we hope will address this. We want to subsidize a limited series of faculty research seminars, which would be precisely an opportunity for faculty in different departments to explore a shared area of research interest. Our hope is that this would be an opportunity to present work in progress to those colleagues, perhaps to do shared reading that will fuel discussion, to bring in external speakers who can fuel the faculty research seminar and hopefully participate in the seminar as critics of your work in progress. And the outcome we hope for this is to fuel research, but also your teaching. We hope that there will be courses that will come out of these efforts, so that this will be a kind of a laboratory to explore new courses and important directions in your research. We realize that the demands in your time are great, and so we will also provide some funding for a college assistant who might help with some of the administrative side of these faculty research seminars. But again, I'm struck that all three of you raised this, and I'm glad to say, well, something's going to happen.
So are we.
Timing.
I thought it also might be, I don't know how familiar everybody is with pathways and what that initiative is going to mean for us here. But I thought I might outline it in very broad terms, and then talk about what I think may be some opportunities in there. The Pathways Initiative is, well, so part of what we're dealing with now is the creation of what will essentially be general education requirements that will be applicable across CUNY. And the intention here is both to facilitate transfer of credits from one campus to another, and also not to slow down students' progress towards degree. All those courses and credits are transferable. The Common Core is made up of two big parts. The 30 credit part is the part that we share by every CUNY campus. It is made up of 12 credits of kind of basic skills courses, 6 in English composition, 3 in math, and 3 in physical and life sciences, the lab course. And then another 18 that are spread among 5 categories that are thematically organized, rather than organized by discipline. So in almost every case, at least 2 or 3 of the following 4, humanities, arts, social sciences, and sciences, can fit a course into them. So that there will be a broad array of disciplines that can be represented in each one of these categories. The final category, which is made up of 12 credits, is called the college option, and that's going to represent the distinctive stamp of each campus, and will be unique. Well, could be unique for each campus. The conversation on our campus right now that is ongoing, and that I think is going to continue in the next Senate meeting, is what shape we are going to give these categories on the Hunter campus. The first bit of reassurance I want to offer is that most of the courses that we've mentioned would find a place within this structure. The other is that the 2 committees that are working on these issues and are going to make recommendations to the faculty at large are considering an overlay requirement of P&D, which means that you would be taking a course to fit into one of the thematic categories, and 2 of 4, for example, would have to be P&D courses. So I just want to reassure you that this is not going to be a revolutionary overturning of our curriculum, that there will still be a presence of courses and categories that this academic community has valued for a long time. The other thing I wanted to mention, in terms of opportunities, there will be greater opportunity for interdisciplinary courses, I think, within these thematic buckets. There may categories. They're referred to as buckets, which is just an unfortunate metaphor, I think. So we want to change that to categories. There may, in the long run, be opportunities for team teaching, too. I think, to some extent, we're going to have to grow into these new requirements. But I think part of the growing in might be considering doing more team-taught courses that would fit into the categories. And the final opportunity I want to mention is that this numerically represents a reduction in the number of general education courses that will be required of our students, or the number of credits. There will be a total of 42, including the college option, and then the major, and that is all that will be required of students, which leaves up to 48 credits unaccounted for. So one of the things we want to consider is how can we encourage students to do more, to do another minor, to do another major, or to pursue a certificate. And we are going to encourage departments and programs to develop certificates that can be attached to pertinent majors. Another one of the advantages of certificates is that students don't have to be in the arts and sciences to have them earned and to have them recognized. So that a number of the connections that Professor Melendez referred to in his presentation were with schools outside of arts and sciences. Will it be possible to create a certificate that might address the needs of students in public health, for example, and that might attract them? So I consider that to be an opportunity too. Okay. And I do want to turn now to your questions and comments. I think we can turn to those, and I'd like to ask you just to introduce yourself briefly before you launch into what you have to say. Please.
Hi, I'm Yasmin Ramirez. I'm a researcher here at Centro. I'm an art historian. And I wanted just to maybe articulate a little bit better how Hunter has another initiative, which is the Arts Across the Curriculum, and how you're working that into, the future development of courses here at Hunter.
Okay, I really can't address that in detail, and I wish Rebecca Connor here were, but the Arts Across the Curriculum initiative is an important curricular initiative that is certainly gaining momentum, and I can see it fitting well in with pathways, with the kind of interdisciplinary teaching that we're talking about, and with creating the kind of linkages that we are after. Is this something that you have been involved in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe you could tell us more about.
Well, what I can
your
tell
vision.
you is that the Arts Across the Curriculum, right now they have a body of foundation money to begin to think about how to implement it. And in that, there is an initiative within the art history department to increase courses really on Latin American art. The money is not Latino art. There's no one really teaching Latino art, but they do have a very large funder who has endowed a chair for the teaching of their specific collection of Latin American art here. So it is rather narrow, although these are all colleagues of mine from like 20 years, and they're going to bring me in to kind of discuss the Latino part. The way that Centro can play a very, very important role within this is, of course, by migrating the substantial collection that is here of posters that were created in New York and many other visual materials related to the civil rights movement, related specifically to art, the alternative art movement, the specific creation of artists' collectives here in New York. El Museo del Barrio, for example, Taller Boricua, many important institutions that were created in the 1970s. So we have a really amazing body of work. I used to be curator at El Museo, and I did their sort of overview of the poster collection. And this collection is comparable and different because it focuses really on work that was created here in New York City in a very important time of a lot of artistic experimentation. But unfortunately, because this collection has not migrated to JSTOR and is not available within the Hunter system to look at, my colleagues don't have the ability to really integrate Puerto Rican and Latino art within their curriculums. And there's just a great body of posters that deal with, social issues that could also be integrated into history courses, into women's courses. So there's a rich body of documentation here and posters that just haven't been available, and I hope that there might be a way for some money to be given to that.
Well, and this would come through the Department of Art, I would imagine.
I don't know about these kinds. I can just tell you that the material is there. It's amazing aesthetically and historically, and would contribute a great deal to a number of disciplines here at Hunter, just as material.
Right, and I would recommend that it come through that a proposal come through the Department of Art, a proposal that would include a budget for the project.
To whom? Because that's what my colleagues want to do. They want to help in that regard, but they don't know who specifically to address it to.
Okay, it should start with me, and it will probably proceed to the Provost's office from there. But I would urge, emphasizing as you did just now, the importance for the pedagogical mission too.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
I guess I want to make one comment with respect. I appreciate the comments that you made about the siloing and the initiative that's going to take place in March, as well as ideas with respect to a minor and major. And last year, as part of the Latino Faculty Initiative, and together with Centro, we invited the unit heads of the Latino and Puerto Rican Studies departments, programs, certificate issuing units across CUNY. And we got together and we had a very interesting dialogue. And it seems to me that we need to develop that dialogue further with respect to the kinds of ideas and initiatives we're developing at Hunter, because places like John Jay, Lehman College, Brooklyn College, the College of Staten Island, you know, they've engaged in some kind of creative thinking through about the relationship between Puerto Rican and Latino studies, and it behooves us not to reinvent the wheel and to have conversations about what works in other CUNY campuses that we might want to emulate and what we want to build upon.
Powerful point. I mean, collaboration that extends beyond our campus. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just, I retired from the School of Ed in January of 2011. So I speak to you as somebody who has had a long-term collaboration with Centro, and it will be my life's mission to continue working with Centro, because as an educator, what concerns me is the fact that we are preparing teachers, and there is no formal relationship with the programs of Latino studies, as there is in Brooklyn College. There's a very intimate relationship in the preparation of teachers in Brooklyn College. And considering that the majority of students in New York City are Latinos, and the underachievement and the low academic success is so serious, we need to pay attention to it. It's not a matter of choice, it's a matter of urgency. And how the college can take policy or create policy to formalize these relationships in the professional schools where this information is critical. Information that affects pedagogy. It's not just within the courses in the foundations, but how this affects the teacher's understanding of practice. So I would urge for that consideration. Preparation of teachers is a different matter, let's say, from those other opportunities that you have to take courses that inform your understanding, but doesn't have the same urgency.
Right. Well, right now, the example that maybe comes to mind is what I was saying earlier about certificates being able to be linked with programs in other schools. But my hope is that, you know, that the driving force for creating these synergies, for creating these partnerships, will be the faculty. That the energy for doing this, for creating these connections, will come from.
I personally think that there has to be some institutional
well, I would consider doing
impact to create to make it more official, more serious. I think Hunter has claimed itself to be a Hispanic serving institution. I'm not sure. At least I've seen some documents that refer to it that way, and I would think that if it is identifying itself as a Hispanic serving institution, that it would.
Well, I consider our job in the Dean's office and broadly for administrators to be to create the conditions necessary for our faculty to excel as teachers and as researchers. And so, you know, in my opinion, creating the faculty research seminars is taking a step in the right direction for our mission, but we want the faculty to pick up from there and to run with it, to create those kind of connections, to build those bridges with colleagues in other departments and potentially in other schools.
So we will continue to work towards that.
I hope so. I hope so.
Right. Hi. I'm Victor Torres Velez from the African and Puerto Rican Latino Studies. I'm an assistant professor there. I just have a few notes on a couple of challenges that I see. Given the statistics that Professor Melendez showed, it's interesting that, well, to begin with, there seems to be, within Hunter College, there seems to be, the Latino population seems to be left out, given the new trends that Hunter College is taking, for various reasons that are far too complex to deal in here, but the whole issue of the percentage, 16% of Hunter College are Latinos, as opposed to 31 in other colleges, and that has gone down.
I mean, CUNY work.
In CUNY, yeah, and that has gone
That
down.
includes our
significantly.
community college.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I want to sort of think about, and then just in terms of more simple ways in which these changes are affecting Latino faculty. In my case, in our case, we have a 3-4 course load. Class size is over 45 students per classes. We are teaching the rights and being courses, and that does not allow us to pursue more advanced courses, which are needed for the to expand sort of the Latino, to expand the curriculum for Latino students. There is also an issue of autonomy in the way in which in our department we can develop new course offerings. That it's something that we should address at some point in time. And yeah, those are some of the and funding, of course. That's always the big issue in terms of research and travel. And even though there are some funds available to do some traveling, it is not significant enough.
If I may react a little bit to the presentations, I think the challenge is very basic right now. As I understand where we are, the number of mandated courses as general ed has been reduced, and there's been a little bit of reorganization in terms of the areas that matter. So your rights and means courses are going to change, and they need to conform to a new reality that we need to think through. You need to think through. That's one piece. But the other piece that I think was the most significant is the last point that Dean Koch made about the mayors are the mayors, and there's a number of requirements that are made, and there's a big gap in between, and that's where the opportunity, I think, is right now. Now, how do we create things, programs that entice both faculty and students to engage in that discourse and that intellectual inquiry and training for the students is, I think, what is out there, right? Now, so in terms of I think what you should expect over the next couple of years is that the course offering that any one faculty in any department, but certainly in African and Puerto Rican studies, is going to change in terms of what you teach. So the question is, what is the curriculum reform that will best capture the opportunity in terms of interactions with other departments and cross-listing of programs and that kind of thing, right? That's one thing. The other trend that not too many people have mentioned, though indirectly has been part of the conversation, is what is I refer to it as methodological, but really pedagogical underpinnings of this new course development and curriculum development. What is the role of technology? I don't know how much people around the table are in tune with what's happening outside in other parts of academia, but this issue about rethinking pedagogies and adapting of technology and adapting of project-based teaching. Obama is even talking about funding competency-based education at the college level, which for those of you who are traditional academics, you don't even know how to begin chewing that concept of competency-based. But it's a well-established type of learning everywhere else outside colleges, for all kinds of education, and especially for the high-end executive and professionals in their fields. You don't want an astronaut or a surgeon to just be based on academic teaching what they do. Certainly, if you're under the knife, you want that surgeon to have been trained on a clinical environment where the practice and the kind of engagement in both combination of theory and practice is of the essence of what they do. So in any case, there are things happening outside academia that also impinge upon this opportunity that we have. So from our end at Centro, we're concerned about inserting ourselves in this rethinking of pedagogies, right? For one, we have this tension across campuses, and I don't think Hunter is that different, that for the most part, even though the Latino student population is growing, the institutions are not really favoring that these students take Latino course offerings. They're sending them to disciplinary silos, to use of the word, and leaving aside or trying to make an artificial separation of how it is that Latino studies at the intellectual level impinges upon, psychology and the arts and everything else, political sciences and what have you. And so I think that's the biggest challenge that we have, is this intellectual barrier that prevents us from going beyond the silo to be part of a table where these conversations happen and where these decisions are made. So one way to penetrate that is to really have a dialogue about pedagogies and interdisciplinary approaches and all what have you. If you look at the CUNY campuses, the one that is the most successful, the one that got them just 5 lines last year or the last couple of years was John Jay.
Yeah.
And they did it all based on this cross-listing of courses and going to the departments and saying, okay, let's develop courses that we're going to cross-list, you and me. And the lines follow. And the enthusiasm follow. And now they are on top of the world, and they diversify from a primarily Puerto Rican faculty to a really authentic Latino faculty, which represents both cultural humanities and so forth with the more traditional social sciences. So I'm just putting that out there. We're, obviously, for instance, to teach history, we're making a big push to introduce all kind of tools, certainly web-based, so students don't have to go. So people in Puerto Rico, as much as people in Hawaii or Florida, can benefit from Centro Archives collections. So we check the calendar because we have 3 video conferences coming up precisely to address those electronic resources and what have you. But that's a use of technology that can be infused into the classroom. So I think we need to attack this from various angles, and that the opportunity is there. And the whole thinking about this roundtable was precisely to say, okay, who's going to take the lead on that proposal to Dean Koch about when the interdisciplinary call for proposals come out, who are going to be working on that draft? Who are the people who are going to take the leadership in making this happen? And I think that needs to precede anything else that has to do with structures and rules and whatever other barriers we need to face. If we don't have an intellectual project, the rest is irrelevant. We need to have kind of a response to the issue of relevancy for Puerto Rican and Latino studies. I don't want to get into how we did that at the professional levels and what the success was, but that issue of how do we think about what we do in a broader context, I think is the #1 challenge for the undergraduate side of what we do.
In fact, may I just pick up on that? I think that I agree with what you say, and I think that it's strategically a very wise thing to do. But just to to encourage you also to think creatively within the limits. Let me give you an example. At the institution where I've been, we faced very, very serious budgetary problems. What else is new in higher education? Where is that not true? But we could not afford to have team-taught courses. And yet I had 2 faculty who made a wonderful proposal one in German, one in French, to do a course on underrepresented groups in both countries. As you know, France now has a 15% Islamic population, a very large population from former colonies in West Africa. Germany too now has a very large Turkish population and other underrepresented groups. It sounded like a great team-taught course, but we can't do it because we can't have 2 faculty teaching the same course. So what they did instead was they listed 2 separate courses at the same time, and they met together twice a week. And twice a week they had a plenary lecture. The 3rd day they were part and ran the classes as discussion groups. Team-taught course that meets the minimum enrollment requirements. This has, does not have 2 faculty teaching exactly the same course. And there are creative ways to do this. I think if if the idea is there and you want to pursue it, there's got to be a way to do it.
I think along those lines, I'd like to share with you maybe something that Centro is doing that you may not know that brings in some of the ideas of cross-teaching and also transdisciplinary, which is, I'm a psychologist and I've been recently with the Centro as a distinguished lecturer. And I've been teaching with the psych department a course that is really on Puerto Rico and Latino studies. It's basic, it's youth identity and psychosocial health. So it looks at youth and identity through issues related to psychosocial health, but definitely you cannot look at identity just from a psychological perspective. You have to bring in a series of other contextual and disciplinary factors. So in a way, the course has been, it's a GER course, so it gets, like I think you mentioned, it gets quite loaded. I think the first time I taught it, I had 45 students, and I said, wow, where do you all come from? and then the next time I taught it was also, I'm teaching it now again, and it's being cross-listed with Latino Puerto Rico Studies and the Psych Department, and it's also quite superly well attended. And what I want to share with you is the experience of the students, what they tell me, and how glad they are because they have not had, of course, those who are in psychology. The tendency has been that half of the students are psychology majors, whether they're Latino or not, but they tend to be Latino, and are psychology majors. And the other are, a lot of them tend to be nursing, which has been very interesting. Nursing, which is so important for them to, you know, to people-related, people service, you know, interest in that. Not education, but so much as nursing, sociology, and anthropology, and just a smattering of political science and history has been the other half. And the nursing was fascinating to find out. And I think that what they have said in their comments, in their work, in their presentations, is that they don't have the opportunity, except unless they are studying in Puerto Rico Latino studies, to address issues of Latinidad, of being Puerto Rican, and that they, not even in psychology, there's one course on ethnicity and mental health. So that they've been able to, this course has been filling up quite a bit every semester because it's drawing from areas the students have some hunger academically to bridge and to incorporate into their development as students. So I think that somehow it integrates a central position that is of a centro, but then it's collaborative with two departments. So that's also not the way of going.
Yeah, it sounds great. And this is a GER course.
Yes. It's been set up that way. I mean, I don't know enough. It was set up that way so that different students could take it from different departments. I might be teaching a course over at social work that also might be cross-listed with psych and, you know, Puerto Rico studies. So it's a way to go. It's kind of like interrelated, and
it sounds exciting for both the faculty who are teaching and for the students who are students.
It's been a good experience. It's been a very good experience. Yeah.
Why? I welcome also getting a student's perspective. I think we have some students joining us here.
My name is Gabriela. I'm a Hunter student, poli-sci and Africana Latino Studies major, so double majoring. And I think there is, or at least school, it has really needs to improve its way of exposing the students to these courses. I started as a political science major, and the only reason I came across the Latino course was because it was a GER requirement, and it was only in one category, which I think it's a problem because Latino studies should be kind of put in the sciences and other departments as well. And after I took my first course, as a Latina, as an immigrant, I just felt like, why have we not shared this with, or made this available to the student better? And I love both my departments. I really do, but I feel like we need to have a better communication. I have a couple of students' friends that they are in other departments, and they have not come across a Latino course in their departments. And most of my friends are from the psychology department, and they, they have taken Professor Zavala's course, and they absolutely love her and love the way she presents her course, but they're just limited to this one course about their own people. And so I think we need to kind of improve that, and also the fact that as being an African Latino studies student, I feel we need to have a better communication there, because there are a lot of events, Latino-related events that go on, that they are not sent out to the students. And I'm particularly speaking about one in particular, that there were an event. I work here as well as a college assistant, so I was aware of this event here, but by working here, but this event was also, I think it was educationally benefit the student if we would have made that available. So I think in that aspect, just getting information to the student, we're lacking in that area. The school, the departments are,
Thank you. I just want to say that for very often, one of the reasons for having general education requirements is precisely for the reason you found the major you did, is that there can be an element of serendipity in education about discovering something that unexpected, along the way, which is what the magic that happened for you, and one reason for having the requirements that you had. It is difficult to prescribe that course content be delivered by a department, but it is possible to create an environment in which a faculty member can develop a course like that. So I would point again as one way to do that to the faculty research seminars that I referred to earlier as a way of encouraging someone in psychology to develop the kind of content, especially if you need to. But thank you for your comments.
I'd just like to interject that one of the challenges, which speaks to what Edwin had said earlier, is a pedagogical one. Because if we're teaching, and many of the courses in Africana and Puerto Rican Latino studies fulfill general education requirements, and if we're teaching a seminar or a 300 level class that fulfills a general education requirement, and we've got students coming from nursing, from social work, from education, from anthropology, from history, and we've developed a course with an understanding that there's kind of a basic knowledge in the social sciences and the humanities, and we get all of these people who don't necessarily have, as of yet, developed the kinds of the kinds of intellectual tools that they need to have, then as a faculty that presents us with a great deal of challenges in terms of how we teach the subject matter. And I think we need to have also an honest conversation about those courses where we really do draw on our intellectual expertise, and those that we reorient so that therefore the purposes of that general education requirement and student that's taking those courses. And it doesn't seem to me, and I've been here for a short period of time as well, that there's enough of that going on.
Right, and it seems I'm very sympathetic to having a course address two very distinct groups of students who are there for a breadth of education requirement, students who are there as specialists, budding specialists in that field. It seems to me that should get better under pathways, because there will be fewer courses that students will have to take for the breadth of education requirements, so that there should be an opportunity to make that curricular distinction in a way that is a little more challenging right now. The other side of this, of course, is that every semester we have to cancel a large number of sections or classes because they're under-enrolled, and this can be a way of ensuring that you have a critical mass of students, even though it's not the ideal grouping or gathering of students.
Luis Reyes. Also here at Centro, and I've been an assistant professor at Hunter between 2002 and 2004.
And the last 2 years
working with
and other colleagues on cultural competence at the graduate level. I wanted to connect that experience to something that Edgardo said, Arlene said. Arlene talked about the original objective of Puerto Rican studies that included resistance to oppression, inequality, race, colonialism, empire, which is that historically Puerto Rican studies, like black studies, women's studies, was to tell a story that was a story of conflict, contested rights and space. And today we may not want to use that language, but it's still part of the reality of disparities in education, in social work. Whether you talk about the history or the reality, inequality is still a fact. And so I think that's one of the goals and roles that Puerto Rican Latino studies has. It's actually the third C that I feel is missing from the conversation about college and career ready, which is the University Hunter preparing students to finish with a degree and to be ready for profession, but not the third C of citizenship, and that is an understanding of the social world, economic, cultural, historical, linguistic world that we live in New York and beyond, and how to navigate and to improve. And so in the cultural competence sequence that Edwin and I worked on, the School of Social Work, the School of Public Health, Urban Planning, and the School of Education, the focus is on cultural identity, social change. That's a soft version, but it's basically the same concept. The importance of cultural identity, knowledge of self, knowledge of others, and whether it's undergraduate or graduate, it seems to me that I would contest Edgardo with the number, about 85% are very proficient in English, that's self-reporting in the census, and it's belied by the actual numbers of young people graduating from high school, able to do college level work. So on the first C of college, the proficiency in either English or Spanish is not of the level to be able to do undergraduate level academic work. I would argue that one of the areas that Puerto Rican Latino studies can contribute is understanding of language and culture, being connected to history and place. And if we're going to have social workers, urban planners, teachers, was the fourth one?
Nurses, psychologists,
all kinds of
providing services to individuals. We have Puerto Rican kids going through the system, can't necessarily provide service to Mexican or Dominican, Spanish-dominant patients, students in their first language. One of the things that we can do is connect in a transdisciplinary way the teaching of language and the teaching of content to prepare our career professionals to serve people who are going to not they're going to be limited in how much English they may have, but we are likewise limited if we don't develop the language skills of all of us, not just the Latino students. So I just argue that the certificate program that would work in foreign language or romance department with the schools, including arts and humanities, but also the professions to build the skill level around identity, around culture, also around language. And see it as a part of the city, the world city that we are, that a multicultural, multilingual graduate is an asset.
When we talk about Latinos, we are talking about a very complex category that involves many factors. Many speak English, others do not. Okay. Many were born in New York City, others have not been born. But that's the population we have to face as professionals, as teachers, health providers, etc., etc. How we face that challenge is something I cannot give you a quick answer to. But I think that's a challenge we have to face. Not only in terms of Latino studies, but in terms of Hunter as a whole, because we are preparing the students, these kids, to live in New York. 96% of Hunter students are from New York State, mostly from the city. Okay, so they live in the city. They're going to be staying for the most part in the city. They will be working in the city. So if Latinos are going to be they are the largest minority group. They're going to be an even larger group in New York City. I think our students, by necessity, have to be prepared to work with those, with that population. Now, how we do that, I think, is something we have to discuss, because it will cross across disciplines. We have to get people from education involved, the health, social sciences, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Something I don't think we can do here.
We have a historian and an anthropologist perspective on that.
Well, I guess I want to echo the importance of really thinking through this issue of teaching students about citizenship and about developing the kind of cultural competencies through coursework and through experiential learning. While Hunter does, some excellent work in terms of service learning, we still really have a long way to go. When it comes to providing students with opportunities so that they develop the kind of theoretical and methodological foundation, and this is from an anthropological perspective, to in a sense go out into the field, so to speak, and to, through that experiential learning, develop kind of the praxis to understand the linkage between what they're learning in the classroom and the world that they live in, and the world that they're going to experience once they leave Hunter. And I think we also need to kind of really critically engage what we might want to do with respect to the curriculum, or approaching outside agencies or granting funding sources to provide opportunities for students, because those opportunities, it seems to me, tend to be for the students who are on the higher end of the GPA or the summer research opportunity programs, etc., and not always for a broader cohort of students that needs to have that kind of access as well.
I think I'm still processing, so I will pass right now.
I would just like to say one little thing. I could really envision just trying to imagine how a certificate program could be constructed around some of the issues that we've been mentioning here, that would not be specific to Latinos, but would be specific to multiculturality and citizenship needs, cultural citizenship. I think that there could be a certificate, which probably would be like 9, 12 courses, that could address some of the basic issues of cultural competency, civility, citizen rights, and that then could branch out and have a connection to a specific subgroup. And I say this because within a specific cultural subgroup or ethnic group, and I say this because many of the students part of the students that I have had in the 3 semesters that I've been teaching come from other cultural groups, and the richness that they have derived from learning about Latinos has been a deeper connection to their own culture, to their own ethnicity. So they've been rediscovering their own ethnic identity through discovering and learning about that of the other. So that's it's a different approach, but I could see how one could design a certificate program around some of these issues that would be very innovative and probably could be connected also to project learning in the community, experiential learning.
Another excellent point and very rich idea. And if I may, I mean, my own background is in French and French literature, so as a professor of language, I was very struck by Professor Reyes's remarks, to at least a portion of them. And you know, my feeling is that learning another language is learning content. And, I don't know if any of you saw the recent opinion piece by Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard, in which he said that you know, learning a foreign language is not really necessary anymore because everybody speaks English. And Google Translate is so good that who needs to do that?
That's not the word he has said.
No, it's not the word.
He has said many other things that are highly problematic.
Yes, like that one.
The streak of stupidity.
But you know, it always amazes me, again, as somebody who teaches foreign language, that some people start with the assumption that learning a foreign language is learning English with different words, in the sense that instead of, you know, a foreign language is a whole different way to navigate public and private life, and that is culture. That is what learning a foreign language is.
Well, I think we're about to end this seminar. I think it's been very productive, and I'd like to extend thank you to all the panelists and the moderator in Koch. So please, a round of applause for the panel. To be continued. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, great, yeah.